Hey folks, we're in our second part of the Christmas box series, and today we're going to cut the lumber to size for the walls and for maybe the bottom and the top, but probably we'll wait on the bottom and top and get those done in another episode. But today we're going to try to get all the wood dimensioned for the box, ready to go. I'll explain to you the sizes we pick and so forth. And then also we're going to have to miter the edges of the box, because this is going to be a mitered, splined box. And so we'll have mitered edges and then splines to make them strong, because those, remember when we cut those box walls, they were very narrow, about 3/16 of an inch wide, and maybe a little bit more than that, but not a 1/4 inch. So anyway, but they'll still be very strong with these spline joints in there. Now here are the three pieces of, those are the two rather, these are the three pieces of lumber that we chose to make the sides out of. I think I've got one extra one. I think I can cut all the sides I need out of these two, so if I make a mistake, I've got an extra one over here. So those will be the walls of the box. And these two, actually thinner pieces, not that much thinner, but these two will be the top and the bottom of the box, and we'll make the box whole, split it in half. But once we cut the sides to the right length, we've got to cut the miters on them. I'm not going to use the table saw to make the miter joint. I'm going to use a shooting board and a shooting plane to do that. And that's a special technique. It'll require some sharpening of my shooting plane to make it cut very nice edges with. And so I'll demonstrate that as well during this video. So stay tuned and we'll get started with this. Okay, so my plan is that the box should be long enough to be able to hold pencils. All kids like pencils to draw with, and a new pencil to be able to fit in the bottom of that box is what we need. So that's 8.5 inches long, and so I'm going to cut it a dimension of 8 5/8. I'll need only 8 3/8 maybe internal dimensions, but the total width of the box outside dimensions will be 8 5/8 by 3.5 inches. Now the 3.5 inches will be the tallness of the sides, but I'll be able to cut the lid off of that. So part of that 3.5 inches is going to be the lid itself, and we'll have hinges and a hasp on it and things like that. So let me get started cutting that wood to these dimensions. So this shouldn't take long. I'm just going to use the scales on the bench here. So I'm going to cut the 3.5 inch part first. So I've got it set for 3.5 inches here, and these are the three sides. These are going to make the top, so I'm going to set them aside. So the three sides, this is the 8.5 inches. I'm going to cut this spalted part. Now what spalting means is that wood is kind of rot. It got wet and got rotten. It can be decorative, but in this case I really don't want it on there. I may use it for some other purpose after a while, so I'll be cutting that part off. It may leave a little bit, but we'll put that on the bottom or the top if it's a good decorative edge. Just have to decide once we see what we have here. So let me set the height of my blade correctly. I don't need it any higher than it needs to be, and so that should do just fine. I'll use this push block to push this through. I'll get my hearing protection on right here and turn I won't be talking during this next part, so it'll just be loud, and I'll turn that down. Okay, that should make both the side, all four sides come out of these two pieces right here. So let's just make sure of that. Go over here and get my tape measure. I'll take this off for the moment. Oops, I lost my glasses. What a mess. Okay, so I think I said 8 5/8, 8 5/8 right here. That gives me plenty of length for the 3 1/2 on the other side. So let me set the table saw up for a miter. A cut that I can use with my miter sled on here, or my miter bar. And this is what I'll use to make the cross cuts with. I'll cut one edge off like this. Now this backing board on here is close enough to run right through that blade like that, so I should be able to use that. I'll cut one edge on both pieces to get started with, to get a good square clean edge. And then I'll put a stop block on for the long piece, and then another stop block for the short piece. What I'll use for the stop block is probably this piece of wood right here, and I'll probably just clamp that on with a clamp. Matter of fact, let me go get that clamp. Okay, I've got my clamp ready for when I need it. Use that stop block right here. So first I'm going to cut one edge off just to make it a true edge. This is exactly at 90 degrees. I've calibrated it. So everything's going to go loud, and I'll be quiet for a minute, and then I'll come back to you. All right, so you always wait till that saw blade to stop turning before you get your fingers close to it. All right, now I've got 4 good edges on each one of these things. They're not necessarily the same length, but this stop block will allow us to get to that point. I'm going to cut the long piece first. So that long piece is 8 5/8 inches long. I'll put this stop block right here. This is a piece of hardwood, so let me measure it and put a mark with a marking gauge on there. So let me get my marking gauge. Which is nothing more than a knife. You get a knife point. Sometimes a pencil is not accurate enough, and I want these to be very accurate, so I'm going to get this to right at 8 5/8. I just need a little tick mark on the edge of that plywood right there. And then once that's on there, I'll be, oh, this is the wrong thing. They're both red, and so my mind just mistook it right there. So can I still see that tick mark? Yep, I can see it right there. I'm going to move this over, this little piece right here. I'm moving over to the edge of that little tick mark that I put in there with the knife.
So it's right on that edge. And now I can hold this down and make that mark on the front and the side. And so you should be able to see that mark a little more clearly now on here. And I only have to get this right on one of them because I'm going to have a stop block. I don't have to measure but one of them because I'll have this stop block. So I'm going to push this up with the board held tight against this fence. And I'm going to move a blade so that, you know, these blades have a curve on them. One blade turns this way, the other blade turns this way, the other blade turns this way. So I want a blade that's sharp on this left edge because that's what we're going to be cutting off. And actually pull it back and get the next blade. That should do it. So maybe I should get back where you can see. I think I've got that right where I want it. Now I'm going to peek over it. You won't be able to see it from the top camera right here, but that looks good like that. And really, it doesn't matter as long as I get this on here, as long as they're both close and both exactly the same. That's sufficient for what I want to do. All right, so that's tight against there. I should be able to cut that and then put the other board next to it and cut it. So, all the sounds coming on again. Dust collector and saw. All right, and these two should be exactly the same length, and indeed they are. And just to double check, that should be 8 5/8, and it is. Take this off of here, and now I can cut my 3 1/2 inchers. So, and I might as well cut both of them. Let me get one of them marked, and then we'll get that measured on there. So I'll put this on here. Actually, I don't need it on there yet. Let me just use a tape measure and pull, make a mark at 3 1/2 inches. Pressing into it with a good sharp point so I can see the little dot where the knife touched. And I'll use this little straddle square to grab onto the board, and it will come up to right to that knife edge. In fact, I'll use my knife point in the edge and just shove it up until it touches the knife. So now I can use my knife to make the mark. And yes, I can see my mark better now. And pull that back, put this over here, and I'm going to get this one set up for the width of that cut. And I've already got the right tooth I'm looking for right there. So I hold that on there, take my stop block, shove it up against here, and then take my, oops, I moved it. Gotta open it up a little bit so I can get that on there. So let me get it right. Tight. All right, now I'm just going to cut both pieces at the same time. One piece is a little longer than the other, so I'll put the long one on the bottom. Hold both pieces, cut them both at the same time. Dust collector. Hearing protection. Too loud. Okay, that should give us the pieces we need. And these aren't mitered yet, they're just square joints. I'm going to use the other device to make the miter cuts. So let me set my cameras up so we can work on the bench over there and show you that. And I'll set up my, the first thing you're going to see me doing is getting all my sharpening tools out on the table and getting my plane iron down ready to disassemble. And then I'll explain what I'm doing. So the next shot will be just me moving tools around, getting them out, and then I'll explain all it, what all I'm about to do.
Hey folks, this was a long episode, so we're going to split this one up. The rest of this episode will be on the next video. Thanks for watching. Click the subscribe, the like, and the bell buttons if you want to help us. Appreciate it. Thanks.